Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Heartwork Hub Podcast. Today, I'm thrilled to bring on a lifelong friend of mine, Lauryn Woodman. Hi, Lauryn.
Hey, Tracy.
Thanks so much for being here and joining us on the podcast today, where we talk about all the things that make our heart happy and how we practice self-care in all the different stages of our lives that we go through. So, my first question that I love to ask people who are joining me is just tell me who you are and tell me a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So thank you for having me. I'm excited to be on. My name is Lauryn, as you mentioned. And who am I? That's a great question. I think I'm still trying to figure out who I want to be when I grow up and all that stuff. But so far, I am 37, which I'm happy to share because the more age we have, the more wisdom we have, I think. And I am currently an instructional designer. I've been working in this field or in the education field in some way for, oh my gosh, a long time.
Yeah, seems
14,
like it.
15 years. Yeah. Yeah. So I always said over a decade, and now I'm like, oh, it's getting closer to 2 decades.
That's what happens when you start to get closer to 40.
Yeah. So a little background. I went to University of Florida. I graduated with a degree in psychology, which I think a lot of people know is really common and hard to do a lot with as a bachelor's degree. So I kind of floated around, eventually found education and ended up getting my master's degree in instructional design and have been working as a designer ever since. And it's something I'm really passionate about. It's something I really enjoy doing. I think it melds a lot of my interests, like education and accessibility and helping people. And aside from that, I am a person who just loves spending time with my friends and my family and new experiences, anything to do with nature. And that stuff, I think, defines me a lot more than my work does.
I love it. And I love how, despite time, distance, all these things, our lives have intersected in so many different ways. And knowing you, I'm actually really surprised that you didn't bring up pets. Like,
I
that's one of
know.
your defining things that
I
you love.
I'm saving that for later when we talk about the things that make me happy because I
Okay.
don't have a pet of my own, but I do love animals and pets and dogs and cats, and they bring me a lot of joy.
Sorry, I didn't mean to spoil us and get too far ahead. So, most people kind of cover this part in the intro, but I think just to dive deeper into who we are as individuals, can you just share maybe one thing, either out of the list that you already stated or something different that you're really passionate about?
Oh, that's a really hard question because I am passionate in a lot of different areas in my life. So, overall, I think I'm really passionate about helping people and working with people. So, I mentioned accessibility as one of my big passions, and I do a lot of work in my own work around accessibility and making educational materials accessible, whether that be captions or alternate text and things like that. And that just sort of feeds into helping people. But with that, like I said, spending time with people, cooking meals for friends and family, babysitting every chance I get, pet sitting every chance I get. And I think just enjoying those moments of like human connection is super important.
I agree because I have benefited from your cooking. So I will take that. I super appreciate it. All right. So we have talked about your love for cooking and having people over, helping people. As I mentioned, I have been a beneficiary of your cooking as well as your help doing accessibility on website and design. And you've been a go-to person for me. So I really appreciate that. But I'm curious, we talked about passion, and sometimes these things are aligned and sometimes they're different. But like, if you could think of one thing or maybe a couple that makes your heart super happy, what could it be? I've had people talk about books and reading and just something that's like a super big crocheting, knitting, whatever it is might be. But is there just something that just your heart goes, but like just makes you happy when you see it, do it, think about it, experience it? What might it be?
Well, if we had to pick one thing, that would definitely be animals, for sure. Pets in general, and especially dogs. So most of my closest friends have dogs. I promise I'm not using them for their dogs. Not usually. Yeah, just being able to spend time usually outside, like taking a dog for a walk, or I'll have I call them my nephews, and they're my friends' dogs, and I'll have them come over, or I'll take them on little doggy dates. And that just makes me so happy because like they're just happy to spend any time with you and have a little bit of attention, and they're really chill, right? They don't usually complain. It's like really pure. It's like a pure form of love. Yeah, I really like spending time with animals. That makes my heart really happy. And then also just like good things, which I know sounds kind of silly, but one of my mottos is always like, life is too short, just burn the candle. And so like I love to get like really good quality candles and really good quality wine and really nice things, and then enjoy them, because like life is too short.
Yeah, like the people who have china and they only break it out once every several years for a super big occasion. And that's wonderful.
Mhm.
Like it's probably beautiful where it is, but it's like, yeah, use it. Use that. You don't know, these meals that we share that just seem ordinary might be some of the most special moments that we have in our life.
Yeah. Right.
Lives instead of lives.
All of our lives.
I don't even remember what I said. Yeah, these moments that seem so ordinary might turn out to be some of the most special moments in our lives. So I love
Yeah.
that message of just burn the candle, just buy these beautiful things and utilize them and don't just let them just sit on a shelf. And the other
Yeah.
funny thing about you and pets, which of course I already knew this, is just why I let the cat slip out of the bag at the beginning. Is that every time I've introduced you to a new friend, you define them by their pet. Like you don't even know always my friends' names, but you know that
No.
that's so and so's mom, that's so and so's
Yeah.
dad, whoever the pet is that that person has. And
Yes.
that is the first thing I always do when I meet new people is send you pictures of the pets.
Which I so appreciate. Like I am that person. Like send me all of the pictures of your animal. Tell him he's a good boy. Give him a treat from me. Like that's kind of how I operate. But I want to go back to something else that you said and kind of build on it, which is like I don't think you need a special occasion to have special things, right? Like you could have a nice meal because it's a Tuesday. You don't have to wait for a special occasion. You don't have to wait for permission. Like you deserve it. You deserve to have nice things all the time.
Yeah, I agree. And I think as a person who's ebbed and flowed between relationships and being single, I've also appreciated those moments where I just have a nice meal with myself. Like it doesn't always
Hmm.
have to be with other people. It's
Yeah.
obviously having community and sharing with others is wonderful, but I think it's also important to be able to do that for yourself too. Like say, I deserve a nice meal, or I'm going to make myself a really nice meal tonight, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or order really nice Taco Bell, like it's all okay.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. That's so true. That's such a good message. I think we often get caught up in the busyness of looking to that next event, that next occasion, that next thing. And it's like, yeah, these little moments that are super important that we can appreciate and we can be thankful for. So
Mhm.
that's awesome. So the last question that I like to ask guests on the show here is to just share some tips or tricks on how you practice self care and self love. This is a journey of mine that has been a struggle at different times in finding the right balance between working and doing the things that I, have to do, but also making sure I prioritize the time to do the things that I know are good for me.
So self-care has been a really tough journey for me as well, because like you said, we get caught up in busyness, and I also like my interests change like as I've aged. And so things that I really enjoyed doing that I thought were like passions and my hobbies from my 20s are not the same things that I value in my 30s. And I've had a hard time like letting go of those things. And like you mentioned, people love reading books, and I have learned that when I get done with work, which all of my work is on the computer, the last thing I want to do is look at any words anywhere. I don't want to look at any words. I don't want to look at a screen. I don't want to I just kind of want to unplug and do something offline. One of my big passions has become like listening to audiobooks. And I found it like really relaxing. And I will do that, whether it's an audiobook or a podcast. Usually, if I'm not working, I'm listening to something and it's just really passive. And it's a nice way for me to calm down and like decompress. And especially if the person has like a calming voice. And it doesn't even matter what the topic is, it's just like nice to listen. I'm also, because I don't want to do things on the computer, but I do like kind of the mental stimulation of some of those things. I've gotten really into Lego, and I have one of my creations here. It's a plant.
Lego, like the blocks you put together? Like,
Yeah.
oh.
So they've got these new sets, the I think it's the Icon collection. And they've got all of these different plants and flowers and more things for like adult builders, so to speak. And I love that. So I put together plants with my love of pets. I put together little
Oh,
dogs.
dogs.
And that's a great way. It's also something I can do while I'm listening to something and, still be productive with my hands. I try to get out and exercise, and I've done that in a lot of different ways, whether it's hiking or walking or kickboxing and boxing is something I do. I've done swim lessons. I'm just like always trying to do something new that's active because I do work at home and it can be really hard to just get any steps in. So if I can do something active at least like a few times a week, like that's super important too.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I kind of feel the same way sometimes. I'll be sitting for hours and I'm like, I have to set timers to even get up to make sure that I'm moving my body and stretching and doing the things that I'm supposed to, because after 8 hours of sitting at home and looking at your computer, you have to get out. You have to get out and do
Yeah.
something different. So kudos to you for trying new things and like going out and kickboxing.
Yeah. And to your point about setting a timer, I've got this great visual timer right here on my desk. And these are great if you suffer from like time blindness like me. So it helps
Ah.
you see time passing and then it will go off when your time is up. So then I can just look up and see like, okay, I only have this much time left before I can take a break.
Oh, that's so cool. I actually will link in the comments below or the description below. I'll link to that item so people can buy it if they're interested in the timer, because that might be super helpful to some people who are struggling to find that balance. Because I haven't seen one like that has like the shading of the
Mm-hmm.
time blocked. So that can really, yeah, help you instead of like even just like a countdown or a random alarm. You can like kind of glance over and be like, okay, it's almost done or something.
Yeah. And then with like the last thing with self-care, and I do not always practice what I'm going to preach here, but some of us do have super important jobs that, people depend on us. And you might be a parent where there are people depending on you. But in my line of work and in my current life, like there's no such thing as an instructional design emergency. I always say like nobody ever died because, the course wasn't up on time or because the documentation had a typo, right? At least in my line of work. And that puts things into perspective because then you'd realize it's okay to take a day off. It's okay to take a half day. It's okay to take a long lunch. It's okay to take that PTO that's been building up. Like you can just take it and take time for yourself.
I think that's really important and sometimes a really hard message to internalize, especially depending on whichever career field you might come from, because
Mm-hmm.
expectations around work culture have been such
Yeah.
that like don't take time off and just save up all this time, and then a lot of people just let it go to waste because oh, there's too much work to do when I get back. And I
Yeah.
think that's a company failure to not build that work culture to support people being able to rejuvenate and take the time off that they have rightly earned and worked for.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's an important message to share, but also sometimes hard, I think, to put into practice because it requires
Totally.
for some people, a mindset shift. So I totally agree with you that when you can, do it.
Yeah.
And I want to go back to your point about the screens thing, because I'm curious, we're the same age. We grew up with the same kind of things. And we grew up in that era before technology, before smartphones. And
Hmm.
so we had more of that outdoor life, that disconnected from screens life. And then we got, it's all like everybody else. We're on it all the time, consumed by it. Now we work from home a lot of times. We're on our screens all the time. And I don't know, I see a lot of people our age sort of shifting back to those things that are off screen, like your Lego, like doing things that are a little bit more tactile, that are more in nature, and trying to disconnect a little bit more. Do you see that with people that you work with or your friends or anybody else also trying to do that in any way?
Yeah, I think actually most of the people I work with, I'm really lucky. I work on an awesome team with some really great individuals, and we get along. We talk about things like this, and many of them are also outdoors type people. They have interests outside of work. And I think it makes it a little bit easier because my work is based on the computer, that my brain thinks computer equals work.
Mm-hmm.
Screen equals work. And so even with social media, I'm on one social media platform. Many of my good friends are also only on one, maybe two. And even like on my team, when we get together for our retreat yearly, because we are all remote employees, we always like our team activity is always something outside. We're always going hiking, we're doing something in the park, we're playing disc golf like outside on the lawn, even if it's like a terrible rainy day, because we just want to be outside off those screens. And so that, I think, yeah, I see it and I see it amongst people who I think because of the shift towards more remote work, I think people are able to really put that dividing line and say, like, technology is great. Like, we all love it. It's amazing. And it has its uses. And most of those uses, I think, are 9 to 5
Yeah.
and not in my free time.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I have also started to lean more towards outdoors activity and not actually being an outdoorsy person. Like I'm a
Yeah.
huge proponent of glamping and not
Yes.
being out on the ground. But I did go camping last year for the first time, and like I had no cell phone service, and it was nice. Like it was actually
Mhm.
really nice to just listen to nature and have a fire and just kind of like I don't know, it was just different. So maybe I am just in a different stage, but yeah, however we practice self-care, what's important is that we do what works best for us and what we can do in this stage of life, this season of life, whatever we're going through or we need to do. And even if it's as simple as just taking 10 minutes to just take some deep breaths. Like, is there anything else that you'd like to share that had a thought that was just going crazy in your head and you just wanted to get out there? Or do you feel like you pretty much shared as much as you wanted to share for today?
I think the last thing I will leave everyone with is just like it's okay to not know who you are today or what you want to do today or tomorrow. And it's also okay to change your mind, and who you were yesterday and what you liked yesterday does not have to be who you are today and what you like today. The only expectations that you have to live up to are your own.
Oh, that's so true. And that I so funny is I just made a TikTok on that very similar theme right before we jumped on this call. So I'll have to send
I
it to
love it.
you.
Yeah, I won't be able to see it because I'm not on
Oh, that's
TikTok.
right. You can't. I'll just send you the video then because that's
Yeah.
funny because you're not on TikTok. That's good though. Balance. Thank you so much, Lauren, for joining us today on the Heartwork Hub podcast, where we learn and we grow and we share the things that make our heart happy. We hope this is an inspirational message to you and that you know that we are all unique and have different stories and perspectives to share. So I really appreciate Lauren for taking the time to share hers today so we could get to know a little bit more about her and some ways that we can take care of ourselves and enjoy those small things in life and not wait for the big celebrations.
Thanks, Tracy.
All right. Thank you.